let people kind of jump in before we jump into this. To be honest, there was a few parts that I didn't get to show in the video, so now I do. I couldn't find them and whatever, so maybe it worked out for the best. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Again, thank you guys so much for your patience. Just going to wait a few minutes. Again, my apologies for the other video. And yeah, just wait a few minutes, let everyone kind of come in before I start this. And we'll go with that. I may not be able to respond immediately to your chat. But I'll try to respond on the mic to it as we go through. So if someone wants to let me know in the chat that everything sounds good on the audio on my end, that would be great if you can. If you can't, I totally understand. All right, I think we're ready to get this going. What do you say? Again, this video is about Theories of Everything podcast. If you don't know who this guy is, right here on the screen and on the thumbnail, Curt Jaimungal. Beautiful podcast. They cover just a lot of interesting topics, and he's trying to get to know the theories of everything. So he just had Jesse Michels on, and they had this 3.5-hour conversation. It was wonderful. I just want to cover different parts of it. You'll see down in the description different topics that we are going to just discuss in this video. Who's Jesse Michels? Okay, he's the guy that interviewed David Grusch and made this wonderful documentary. The link's down there in the description. You can check out the full doc. It's wonderful. And this was just such a fascinating conversation between these two. Okay, crisp and clear. Awesome. Thank you, Paul. So we're going to cover some topics here. There's definitely some great theories thrown out. I mean, it's a phenomenal podcast. I recommend listening to the whole thing, but we're just going to cover different parts that I found fascinating. So I say let's, jump into this. Again, Jesse and Curt doing it right. Let's go, baby.
Thank you. Thanks, Curt, for having me. I'm a huge fan of yours, so it's an honor to be here. I feel very unqualified on some levels, but I do feel like, we've talked a little bit, off air about the UFO thing. I feel like I'm doing sort of a vigilante job. I feel like you are among 2 or 3 outlets that are seriously and in-depth covering this topic, and most kind of quote-unquote ufologists or people who claim to be really deep into this stuff, it's either you're super sensationalist and you believe everything, or you're very smug and dismissive. And so I'm excited to have kind of a hard-headed conversation with you about this.
Well, same. I hold you in high regard. It was nice meeting you a few months ago back in March, and I've been looking forward to meeting up again or speaking again, and so welcome.
Yeah, man. Thanks. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited for that episode. For all Theories of Everything fans, I did an interview with Curt. It was right before I took a long break on the media front, and so I'm putting that out soon, and it's a great interview, and please tune in and wait for it.
So, yeah, I'm really excited about that. Curt and Jesse doing a video, right? Jesse interviewed Curt. So, and if you've seen Jesse's videos, they're just so well put together. I cannot wait to see that. Honestly, it's going to be great. And honestly, after seeing this conversation between these two guys, they should have a podcast together or something. It was a really, really great conversation. He made a comment about you're either really smug and dismissive about the UFO topic, or, you're all in on it and everything's real, right? It is hard to find that lane in the middle, which is what I try to do here at Vetted. So, to Jesse's point, I think there's more than just 2 or 3 outlets that are covering it respectively. I hope I am. Anyone who watches a lot of the videos should notice that. Again, if you just judge me based on titles and thumbnails, you may not. But if you actually watch my videos, again, I post every day, 12 p.m. Central, a new video, except for today, right? I mean, we're going live, so we're fixing it. But yeah, it's hard to find that middle ground, right? Where you're not all in, but you're also not dismissing it. You think there's enough, enough smoke that there's something here, right? And you just have this gut feeling there's something going on, right? And that's where I'm at. So, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Let's continue. He's going to talk about David Grusch a little bit. I find this fascinating because some of this stuff just isn't out there. So let's continue.
And for those of you who don't know, Jesse is the only person to have interviewed David Grusch outside of Yes Theory and outside of Ross Coulthart, at least not in a major way. And no one knows how you were able to secure this, not even me. We're going to talk about that. But first, what was going through your mind prior to that interview, just prior to it?
I was freaking out. I was like, this is world history. And a part of me is like, it's a total imposter syndrome. Like, I shouldn't be here. This is crazy. And I just wanted to do it justice. I wanted to, luckily I can do stuff and I can edit and post. And so if I screw something up, royally, I can sort of make up for that. And I'm decently good in conversation and somewhat polymathic and can talk a lot about a lot of different things with people. But I was just really nervous. I was like, why am I in this position? This is insane. I don't want to screw it up. And so, yeah, that was what was going through my head 24 hours before the interview.
If you could ask David Grusch one question and get a straight answer, like an actual answer that he won't give you any qualifiers, what would that be? I
think the most important thing is characterizing the NHI, right? Like, who are these NHI and what?
I would just ask him, is this real? Are you bullshitting us? That would be the number one question. But this is a far more, this is a smarter answer here.
They want to do with us. There are all these questions I think you could ask him, which a lot of people revert to around who is involved in the government, which private aerospace contract.
I'm vaping, guys. This is not, marijuana. This is just, I'm trying to quit smoking. So I'm vaping. Anyway, that's the truth.
Factors were involved. How should they be recriminated against, and treated? All of these questions I think are very important. I think where I land, and I imagine you land based on me being a big fan of your show, is like, this is the nature of reality that we're talking about. And if we're not at the top of the food chain, we're not sort of apex predators or apex consciousness, then, who are these NHI? If there are different races, what races exist? And then, what are their agendas? If you can speak to that, that would definitely be my main question.
Would that be the same question that you would ask Lou Elizondo?
Absolutely, yeah. Same, yeah.
What if you were allowed one question to anyone, even if they're dead?
Oh, man.
Who would it be and what would that question be?
Oh, that's such a good question. That's so hard. I would probably, it's so hard, but I think I would try to just be in the presence of somebody who's a known mystic. So like Jesus would be kind of a classic proverbial example, but I think Muhammad and Moses, I think these are a few of maybe many that have experienced the transcendent in some way and have come back down to earth and are trying to spread a message, but there's some sort of translation function issue where, Grusch actually said this in our interview. It's almost like the symbol rate of language is too slow to actually get across what they're trying to say. And so if you read the New Testament, just as an example, Jesus is speaking in riddles. It's mysteria is the Greek. It's mysteries. And, I think John Locke even talks about, how he speaks, he's sort of misdirecting maybe in certain cases. And, maybe, there's a famous political philosopher, Leo Strauss, 20th century, and he talks about how a lot of philosophers write in code, and maybe Jesus was sort of Straussian. Maybe he was sort of speaking in code. And that allows for multi-layers of meaning that, it's like you have to have ears to hear And so you have to be at a certain level to sort of hear, to get the message. And then I think it also allows for this sort of Lindy effect of like the message lasts for a very long time because everybody's sort of poking at it and picking at it. The meaning is not, obvious. And then maybe the Occam's razor explanation is there's nothing actually behind all of it. But I tend to think, in cases like Jesus and other sort of very mystical characters, there is more behind it. There is more substance. And so there's sort of maybe hermetically sealed meaning that is sublinguistic.
Do you think?
So anyway, there's a lot to this. We're just going to kind of jump ahead and jump around in this interview. All right. So again, check out the whole thing. You guys can hear everything that they talk about. So this is going to be, they talk about the fight against misinformation, which I found really good. Let's jump ahead to that.
It becomes a good risk reward, and then you decide to make the bet. And so that, to me, I think that in some cases, to put it in annoying financial terms, the UFO thing is like this interesting arbitrage opportunity because you have outside of you and again, one or two other people, like it's mostly snake oil and it's like really, really bad people kind of attached to it. And yet I think there are a lot of facts compared to that. And people can't think probabilistically. They can't not pre-crystallize. It's either bullshit or it's real. And it can't be like, well, there's clearly something worthy of investigation here. I'm like almost 100% sure of that, just that it's worthy of investigation. And then let's go forward without having to kind of snap it to a grid of like, this is definitely ET, or it's definitely time traveler, or it's completely bullshit.
I totally agree with that. Again, that's why I started, we started this channel, because there's smoke. There's something going on. There's a lot of red flags, y'all. I'm sure y'all that are watching, it's right. Like there's something going on. And I'm not in the camp of it's all bullshit. And I'm not in the camp of it's all real. I'm in the camp of I don't know. And I'm trying to find out, and there's just too much smoke for there not to be something. And I do have this gut feeling, I think just a small percentage of it is real, and I mean small, 1 to 3% of the information that's out there is real. That is truly my opinion. But, I don't know entirely, right? It's hard to tell. But that's why there's definitely something worthy of investigation. Anyone dismissing this outright, saying UFOs, aliens, this is silly. It's not silly, right? That idea is not silly at all. But also the idea that everything is real that you hear. I mean, clearly that is also crazy, right? So it's something in the middle. I mean, it's hard to deny people's real experiences, right? Can't just call them a liar. I'm not about that. I don't know that. People have their own experiences, and that's them. If you weren't there, how do you know, right? And they don't need to prove anything, right? That's how I would feel. I personally haven't had any experiences, so I don't know. I haven't seen a UFO. I haven't had an, ET experience, nothing, none of that. But I'm open to it all, and I find all the stories fascinating. And again, there's a lot of smoke. David Grusch is, to me, sort of at the top of this pyramid of someone we should be paying attention to the most, right? He's, to me, the most credible. He's testified in front of Congress. He's got all these places and people, and he's trying to get it out there. And that's where my focus is. And I'm trying to just sort of ignore, the other nonsense.
So you talked about that there's so much BS in this field.
Yeah.
So how do you vet some people before you interview them? How do you know who you should speak to?
I actually try to initially cast a really wide net, and then I try to demarcate where I think things are super speculative. So I guess I think it's sort of our duty to speculate a lot. If something involves really bad thinking, just like on the face of it, it just feels like there are way too many leaps of logic. I won't entertain it. I'll give you an example. I guess the thing that I entertained on the show that is probably the most out there on the UFO front that I think is probably wrong when it comes down to it. But I think it's interesting. It's an interesting way to possibly think about it. And probably you or a fan of your show could better falsify or corroborate this than me. is I had
guys, we got Ben. Nothing against Ben. Love you, Ben. Thank you for all the comments. But he's dominating the chat, y'all. Let's jump in there. Feel free. Throw out. If you have some questions for me, throw them in there. I'm happy to answer them.
Prasad on, and he's talking about reverse engineering UFOs, and I actually, again, I don't think it's probably not the best approach, but I do think there are ways in which UFOs kind of look like maybe quantum macroscopic objects. Like it looks like they're like tunneling or whatever, or it looks like they're sort of non-local.
Sorry, what's not the right approach? What's not the right approach with that episode or with the deep?
So his idea is that you cannot solve Schrodinger's wave equation at scale. You can only solve it for like a few electrons, and so you have to use I think it's like density functional theory, like these sort of like calculus workarounds to scale that up. And his idea is that a quantum computer could be able to solve Schrodinger's wave equation at scale, and then you can do all sorts of novel material science. You can basically, and I think this is even from a Paul Dirac quote, you can like predict like how any material, like its attributes, essentially. You can do like material science, synthetic material science at scale if you figure that out. I think as a startup, it's really hard, right? You're like betting on like being able to build a quantum computer, then you're betting that can solve Schrodinger's wave equation at scale. It's like Peter, who I worked for, Peter Thiel, talks about like a you never want to bet on like companies are a miracle. You don't want to bet on like a 3 miracle company. And again, I'm a huge fan of Deep, so don't take this as too hard a critique, and I'd love to talk with him more, but it feels a little like a 3 miracle company, right? It's like you're building a quantum computer, then you have to build Schrodinger's wave equation, then building a company at all is a miracle. Like it's really hard to build a company. So
I agree with that completely, right? Like I've had my own business, ran a food truck in Austin for 5 years with a catering company. Like you're working 24/7, like, and there's just a lot of variables where things can fail, right? You've got to accomplish a lot just to even open the doors. And then once the doors are open, there's a lot of variables there. So yeah, any company you're starting, like there's just so much to happen for it to go right. So that's interesting. But clearly he supports that, and go find that episode on Jesse's channel. It's quite interesting. A guy is trying to reverse engineer UFOs, but out in the public. Like it doesn't have a UFO. Like, just based on concepts that they're coming up with. So anyway, it is quite fascinating. We're going to jump ahead here, guys, to a part where Jesse's going to talk a little bit more about David Grusch and how he met David Grusch, which I find fascinating. Hang on.
By for your own person.
Kurt's ad here.
So 2 years ago, I have a friend, but I had him then, and he served on the Air Force. He was in Space Force.
Real quick, Joanna's asking me, what do you think about disclosure videos with Jason, Shukra, and Ray? I don't know who that is. So there's that.
And I'd pick his brain on UFOs because he's in the Space Force. I'm like, come on, man. Like, I know you're in the Space Force. And what do you know? And he'd be like, look, like I'm sympathetic to a lot of this stuff. And like, it was clear, like he didn't know like an insane in-depth amount, but he's sort of vaguely believed in UFOs. And I sort of got to a certain point in my questioning, and he was like, I do have somebody you should probably meet if you're really into this topic. I mean, you could tell I was super into it. He was like, I do have somebody you should meet. And that person was Dave Grusch. And so I met him probably literally 2 years ago. And I think initially he was probably like, who's this crazy kid who works in kind of a private venture context, who knows like a decent amount about the UFO field. And I was just flinging questions at him. And I think a lot of them, I think he probably was like, wow, like, he's probably barking up some of the right trees here. And so that probably intrigued him. And yeah, we just stayed in touch, like, had sporadic phone calls between, now and then. I saw some of the stuff go on kind of, behind the scenes in terms of his frustration with the government trying to kind of move it from the inside on the UAPTF, and that not really working as a strategy. And then I think at some point he was like, fuck it, I'm going to, from the outside, I'm going to leave, I'm going to defect and leave, say what I can, but in a limited capacity, and really try to get the executive branch to say a lot more than me as far as real full disclosure, which is really his whole goal. And I think a super important thing to preface this entire conversation with, and for like the public to understand, is like, I get why if you knew nothing coming into this and you saw some, 14-year intel officer with a bunch of, 3-letter agencies, as credentials, I get why if you heard him just say, there are crafts and we have biologics with the craft, why you'd be skeptical, why you'd be like, well, wait, like, why are you being so vague? But his whole strategy is to get the executive branch to do full disclosure. And I think he's rightfully admitting and having kind of epistemic humility around, I don't understand, I don't have the full kind of top of the pyramid, full equities understanding of this. I don't want to screw with, American national security secrets, with American, with alliances, with like, really important kind of covert R&D. And so
he wants to do this as above board as he can.
Exactly. And he's saying that. He's saying like he's not full Ed Snowden. And if that's your take, if you want a full Ed Snowden, like, look elsewhere.
I wish we did have a full Ed Snowden coming out, right? In some way, but I do respect Grusch for trying to do it this way too and stay above board. I mean, I'm sure he just doesn't want to go live in some random country, right, and be looking over his shoulder the rest of his life. Although it sounds like he's had to deal with a lot of pushback already and probably looking over his shoulder anyway, so who knows? But what do y'all think of this? This is interesting. Great insight, into the David Grusch interview. Again, I fully recommend you, if you don't know, I'm sure you do watching this, but check out that documentary Jesse did. I put a link down in the description for you to go check it out. It's 2 hours. It's well worth it. It's more than just about David Grusch. It's about the whole UFO phenomena, as a whole, and it's honestly phenomenal. I recommend that to anyone just getting into this, right? Share it with friends and family that just like don't know anything. Like give them that documentary. If there's one video you're going to share, it's that with them. It's well produced, so they'll want to stick around and watch it, right? Like there's a lot of benefits to that. So Jacob here says, I've seen some very strange things back in 2006 to 2009 in Southeast Indiana, followed by very real feeling dreams. The way they are trying to connect consciousness and UAP hits home for me hard. I don't think you're alone, man. I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. So thank you for sharing that. And we don't know the limits of our consciousness. People can't even define what consciousness is, where it comes from. So how can we know the limits of it, right? Anyone dismissing, like, I'm not saying it's real. I've had never had my own experiences like that, but like CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, remote viewing, like I'm looking into it. Like I'm trying to find out what's going on. I'm not just easily dismissing it. People in like Reddit, for instance, are so funny in these, like, you're in the UFOs subreddit or the alien ones, and they're like, oh, remote viewing's bullshit. Anyway, interdimensional time traveling aliens who've been living here for millennia. Let's get back to that conversation. Like, what? How can you think that's real and the other is bullshit? Like, just easily dismiss it. Oh, that's pseudoscience. Meanwhile, you're talking about like these other crazy concepts, right? Like it doesn't compute. You kind of have to be open to the whole thing, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. At least open to it, right? So anyway, we're going to jump ahead, guys, to something I find fascinating, which is this story about Oppenheimer. Y'all, this is kind of crazy. Oh, wait. No, not yet. We're going to go to reverse engineering programs, and could it be the greatest psyop of all time? This is kind of fascinating.
And I think initially he was thinking that, okay, he'd be doing a lot of the work that he was doing on the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, which you can think of the NRO as like...
Yeah, Marcy. Marcy says, I know lots of UFO bros are critical of anything woo, but I think it's essential to keep your mind open. Yeah. I mean, think about that comment. Again, they're trying to separate the woo with what they're hiding as the woo. It's all woo, in my opinion, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's kind of crazy to just dismiss this, but this is, again, interdimensional time traveling beings who live under the water in spaceships and moon bases and that, but that's okay. Like, I mean, come on. We have to keep our minds open. We don't know. We don't know what's going on, right? So we do have to keep our minds open. I'm open to it all. I really am. The moment you start closing yourself off, I feel, you're going to lose out. You're going to miss out. And the truth may be right in front of you, but you're closed off from it. You've shut that door to truth, right? So that's just, that's me. Anyway, Joanna says she watched it. It's fabulous. Yeah, it is. I recommend everyone watch the Jesse Michels interview.
Kind of the intel, like we're going to actually get the data. We're going to have satellites in space doing crazy stuff and like getting imagery and different other signatures of like interesting stuff happening in our space. And then you can think of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency as like we're the analysts on the ground classifying what these things are. And so that was his expertise, and he was put on the UAP task force. And this is a classic story. It's a story that, if we could interview J. Allen Hynek or Edward Ruppelt, back in the day, they'd tell the same story. He came in thinking, I'm going to debunk this thing, and, it's going to be space trash and airplanes and, BS. I'm going to figure this out in 2 months. And not only were there cases in the sky that sort of baffled him, where he like, okay, some of this stuff is not prosaic, what I know of as terrestrial technology.
Yes.
But then he started to bump into reverse engineering programs where people who he had even intersected with, because he had a 14-year career in Intel,
he's talking about David
taking
Grusch.
him behind closed doors and being like, look, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we have some interesting programs where we have material. We've been working on reverse engineering this stuff. The material has isotope ratios not naturally forming on Earth. They're heavy elements, so it's hard to recreate them in a centrifuge. A lot of sort of strange stuff. And initially, I think Grusch was like, maybe this is bullshit, but he got a lot of other high-ranking senior Intel people to like back channel with those people and like see if they would lie to them, and they didn't get lied to. I think some of the people he spoke to had a counter intel background, but he found people who were more kind of the just pure hapless engineering type. And he's a pretty strong first principles thinker.
A lot of this information has never come out before about David Grusch right here. Sort of, behind the scenes of how he got the information he got, right? He didn't testify to any of this. This wasn't in the documentary that he did. This wasn't in the News Nation interview. So this is, if you're into this and you've been following David Grusch's story, this is like fascinating. All right. This is first time heard of how he got the information, right? It's very interesting.
And he basically came to the conclusion, wow, I think, this is real. And that's when he sort of started to make moves inside the government. That wasn't super effective, and that's when he was like, I'm going to leave and try to make noise from the outside, and did the News Nation thing and the debrief thing and all that.
Sorry, you tried to make noise inside the government?
So there's a cut there. I think he probably started to talk about stuff they needed to cut out, or maybe there was some technical difficulty. Who knows? I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't want to be conspiratorial, but it is interesting. There's a cut there because as far as I can tell, there's no other cut like that in the interview. So I'm curious what was cut out and why. Again, not saying anything nefarious. It says there's a problem with sound. Is anyone else having a problem with sound, guys? On my end, it says it's working. So please let me know.
What does that mean?
Basically, I don't know how much I can say, but I think he basically tried to tell like his superiors, like in his at his agency, the NJIA, look, this is what's going on. Look, you tasked me with this. This is my job, right? I'm supposed to, I'm supposed to find out whether UFOs are possibly classifiable or real, or what's going on here. And I found all these programs. Like, what's up? Like, you should have oversight over this. And yeah, like nothing really happened. And this is, I mean, I don't know if you believe or have heard of the Wilson Memo, but there's a guy named Thomas Wilson who was, head of J2, Joint Chiefs of Staff, who is supposed to have kind of supervision. Like, in his purview is all military technology, as exotic as it gets.
Again, if there's a problem with sound, guys, let me know. There's only one person saying it. I figured more people would have said it by now. Again, from my end, it's all working. So I'm not sure, Mariana, check your stuff. Maybe it's on your end. This is right here. This is interesting what he's saying about the Wilson Memo. Pay attention to how he talks about it. He's talking about it as if it's true. If you don't know what the Wilson Memo is, I made a video, check on my channel, a deep dive on the Wilson Memo. And then I made another video where I read the entire Wilson Memo from beginning to end. That's all it is. So, take a look at that, deep dive on it. It's quite interesting. But it's out there that we don't know if that's real or not, right? We don't know if the Wilson Memo is real. So he's talking about it as if it's real. And he never brings up, well, we don't know if it's real or not, right? That's interesting. This is like a hidden bombshell, to be honest with you, right? And in a way, I don't know if anyone else has noticed this. What information does he have that we don't know? Because Admiral Wilson has denied that conversation ever happened. Again, look into the video, see what's going on. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
That should fall under his jurisdiction. And he has a meeting with Eric Davis that I think gets actually kind of discovered at the Edgar Mitchell estate after Edgar Mitchell dies. And it's the same story, right? Where Thomas Wilson meets with this, private aerospace contractor. They say that they have material. They say that progress has been very slow, that it's super compartmentalized. It's outside of the jurisdiction of the government. And he's furious, and he tries to, affect change within government, presumably. And I don't know exactly what he tries to do, but he's very angry in the meeting with Davis. And so you hear this time and time again of people like trying to do things in the government and just getting sort of muzzled. And I think Dave's kind of one of the maybe the first case to just say, I'm just gonna leave, and I'm gonna push disclosure from the outside, which I think is pretty cool.
So you have a friend, what kind of friend?
What
kind of friend?
He was in Space Force, and before that, he was in the Air Force, and now he's in the private sector.
So force friend.
Yeah, force friend. Yes, double force.
And this person knows David Grusch. 2 years ago, you were speaking to this guy. You were telling him what you think, and he said you should speak to Grusch. This guy, you're like, who's Grusch? Then you're like, oh, I'll speak to him. Yeah, why not? So you speak to him. You accost Grusch with your numerous speculations, and you said that some of them may have jived with Grusch. That made him think, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about, or he's on the right track. So speak to
that's my own speculation. Yeah.
Speculate
and
about
this gets into some of the stuff we covered in the documentary, but there's just so much out there that's actually open source that weaves together in bizarre ways where if your null hypothesis is that this is a psyop.
Guys, this is not me. The interview itself, the audio and the video is off on just this small part of their interview. I don't know why. It's just that way. I can't tell you. I thought it was me at first when I was watching. I didn't know what was going on. Look, everyone's having problems, y'all, right? Like, I don't know, man.
It is so much better than the second best psyop, which whatever the hell that is. It is the best psyop of all time. It's the most. It's intergenerational. It cuts across all these government agencies that don't get along together. So like,
If someone says this is just a psyop and then they leave, they comment that and then they leave, like on Reddit or whatever. Why are you leaving? Like that itself is mind-blowing.
Right.
This is a psyop,
exactly.
and you're totally comfortable with this being a psyop as well?
Exactly.
Like, oh, this is just the government lying to us on a massive scale and with extreme coordination.
No, exactly.
Even if it is, why is that something that you can just say as a dismissal of it, rather than, oh my gosh, let's continue to investigate?
Yeah,
I 1,000% agree with this. Like this idea that it's either all, this is real, we have craft and, we're reverse engineering it, or it's the greatest psyop of all time, or we have just crazy ass motherfuckers in the government who are just crazy, right? In high positions of power. All three of those are absolutely fascinating. To me, looking into this, no matter what the actual answer is, whatever the truth is, it's fascinating, right? Absolutely fascinating. Because if this is fake, this is literally the greatest fake of all time. Like the Michael Jordan of fakes, it's like unbelievable. Again, it would have to go back almost a century or more, right? Again, through different departments, all the different countries, right? I mean, it would just be this worldwide conspiracy. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And that seems unlikely, y'all, right? That also seems unlikely. But again, you just have people dismissing it outright. But again, it can't all be true as well, right? There are a lot of people lying out there, right? It's just like most things, the truth is in the middle. Right? It's a little bit of everything. There's probably a little bit of psyop. There's some truth. We probably do have a craft or two, maybe not 25 or something. You know what I mean? Does it make sense? Like there's something there, right? There's something there. I mean, people, again, you have millions of people in the world who claim to have experiences, different experiences, right? Close encounter of the first kind, second kind, third kind, fourth kind, fifth kind. You're telling me that all these millions and millions and millions of people are just lying and made it all up? That's crazy. I just don't believe that. Now, do I believe all those people are telling the truth? No. I don't think there's any way to really know, right? Not everyone can provide you all the proof and evidence you need for their particular experience. Right? I can't prove everything that's happened to me in my life. I don't have a camera out at all times. I'm not recording audio and 4K crisp this video of that, right? Like, I can't prove everything that's happened. Kind of just got to read the person. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they're lying or not to you, right? Who knows? It doesn't really. Someone has a religious experience. It's hard to tell what's going on up there, right? I have this theory, like, there's not just one world. There's 7 billion worlds on the planet, however many people on the planet, right? We all have our own world within our head, it's just hard to do that. So that's why my focus is on David Grusch, what the government's doing, what's really going on, right? And just kind of focus there because that seems like the most legitimate to me. Not saying the other stuff isn't true, but, people that go on a podcast and drop some major bombshell classified stuff, right? Like that James Lakatsky story that just came out on Weaponized, and I made a video that I dropped yesterday, right? Like, what are we doing? Like, you're allowed to go release classified information on this podcast? Like, it just doesn't seem likely, y'all. David Grusch isn't out tweeting on social media. He's not doing it. He goes before Congress. He's testifying. He's putting his money where his mouth is. Now they got the skiff coming, right, with Tim Burchett. That's going to be happening, a couple of them, right, within the next couple of weeks. Now, mind you, David Grusch isn't going to be there, but they're going to talk about the documents and evidence that Grusch has provided that he mentioned in the hearing, right? And that's, to me, where our main focus should be, because they're going to try to distract us from other things happening. I do feel there's a lot of people in the UFO field who just are not truthful, and I feel there's way more of them than the people actually telling the truth. And how do you discern who and what? It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible. I'm a small channel, but we're growing. And I appreciate everyone that supports and listens. And I try to, focus on a few of those things through my videos, right? Keeping people accountable for the timelines and promises they make and all this stuff, because again, they just kick it down the road, kick the can down the road. Anyone who thinks I'm like anti-disclosure clearly doesn't watch my videos. Of course I want disclosure. Of course I want the truth. And if we have, if we have the greatest answer to humanity for the greatest question that's ever been asked, are we alone in the universe? Like if we have that answer and we're not sharing it, there is no bigger disservice to humanity than to just keep that a secret. Like, and national security isn't a big enough secret. Ontological shock, we can't handle it. Are you kidding me? People handle crazy shit in the world every day, all day. Like, I just don't buy that. We can handle it. And if we can't handle it, that's not for people to decide for us. Right? We deserve to know the truth, and wherever we go as a human race, that's where we go. People trying to control the narrative and control how it goes, that bothers me. I don't like it. Right? Real quick, I got to mention this. There's a comment here from GS. Says, Patrick, I have a family member who was a high-level USEF officer. We should talk in private. I don't do that, y'all. I don't do that stuff. Don't tell me you got to... I'm nothing against... I don't want to know secrets. That's actually a big part of this video that I'm going to get to. I don't want to know secrets. I don't want anyone coming to tell me anything in private. That's how this stuff gets out of hand, y'all, in my opinion. You got all these people and they breadcrumb you out this information. I don't want to know anything, because if you tell me a secret, I'm going to say it. Don't tell me anything you wouldn't say publicly. If that person won't talk, publicly, then in my opinion, don't say it. I don't want to know. And I found out, I said this on some podcasts recently. You know what? Let's just jump to that. Let me show you guys what I said in a video that I made 4 days ago. I mean, we need to ask questions and keep asking questions. Again, I don't ever want to have sources. I don't like it. I don't want people to come and tell me things. I don't want any of that. That's not the type of, creator in this movement I'm going to be. I'm going to report on it, but I'm never going to be reporting sort of new information. Someone told me that. I'm never going to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy, right? I'm not going to be holding on to stuff that I can release later and all this stuff and blah, 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 right? The only source that I have, I wouldn't even call him a source. I guess I did in that video, but the person connected to Lou, and I'm probably never going to say their name. Not because I'm trying to, they've told me stuff that I can't say. I've put out what they said, what they told me. I disguised their voice and everything. But I don't want to be told stuff. I don't want government officials to come to me as this channel grows and this gets bigger. I don't want people to come and tell me things secretly. I can't hold my tongue back. I will want to say it all. I will disclose it all. So just know that if you're watching and you want to give me information, I will release it. Do not tell me. I don't want to be that guy. I'm not looking for that. Let these guys be the guys that get sent videos and this, that, the other. Nope. What I'll do is make a video on what they said and what's going on and dig in, but I don't want to know. Yeah, guys. I mean, again, nothing against GS who sent that comment. I appreciate it, but I don't. That's the problem. A lot of podcasters and people in this community, they feel special, memorable. I made a video. If you watch this whole video right here, let's review promises made to the UFO community. Okay, go check that video out. I posted it 4 days ago. Ross Coulthart is talking about how special and important he feels that they have contacted him and entrusted him with that information, right? That to me is blinded by the light. I don't want to be that. That's the problem, right? You can get buttered up and sauced up. That's literally how counterintelligence happens. Like, that's literally part of the psyop, in my opinion. Like, that's how they get you, I just don't want that information. I don't want anybody to... if I can't tell you guys, I don't want to know. I don't want to know that stuff. Because you have no way to know if it's real or not, if they're using you. And I'm just never going to be that guy. I said it on this podcast too. I guess I should go ahead and talk about this. This is an interview I did on conscious phenomena. Please check this out. They're mods with the Chris Leto podcast, UAP Society, and George and Allie. Great people, phenomenal interview. I'm going to be doing a CE5 session with Allie tonight for the very first time ever. I don't know anything about it. I'm giving it a go, guys. Okay, I'm trying. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to make a longer video about it in a month or so because I'm going to try it a few times and remote viewing and put this all together. It'll be nice, well produced, edited, for you guys to, put my money where my mouth is. Let's see what's going on. I don't know. I've never had any real crazy experience, and I'm willing to give it a try. I'm not saying I'm going to have an experience. I'm willing to try. I think people should be willing to give it a go before they just dismiss it. So, and I'm not trying to dismiss it either. Even if I don't have an experience, that doesn't mean anything. But anyway, I did this interview with them. There's a link is down in the description. Go check it out. You can learn more about me, why I started the podcast, my other podcast, Lone Star Plate, some other thoughts I have about the community and this and that and the other. And great guys, go check them out. And Allie's channel too. So listen to this.
Feel compromised. I don't want to ever feel compromised. I don't want to be held with the keys to the city because we don't know if those keys are real or.
GS, I appreciate what you're saying. I just don't want any of that stuff. Like, I don't want any secrecy or stuff. So just here, this will help answer.
The city's real. So I just think you can leave yourself open and you just compromise yourself. And it's just not who I am.
And to kind of piggyback on that reflection that you just shared, you did state in a recent video that you made the other day that if
anyway, that's it basically, right? I don't want to keep beating that over the bush. Let's get back to this. Okay, so this is quite interesting. We're going to talk about Oppenheimer. We're going to change it up here a little bit. I had not heard this, and this is absolutely fascinating. If true, this is not only probably, aside from the craft itself, one of the biggest bombshells and cover-ups of all time. You'll get what I'm talking about. Let's listen.
UFOs above and beyond creating the secrecy that was then.
Hang on. Right here.
So was Grusch
Listen
saying,
carefully.
or are you saying that Oppenheimer is involved with UFOs above and beyond creating the secrecy that was then used for, or the claim is that was then used for as a guise for UFOs? So in other words, Oppenheimer comes about and creates this framework of secrecy. This then gets used as a shield for UFO research. This is the claim. Or is the claim that Oppenheimer also took part in this UFO research? And also, yes, sorry, please, that's his own question. Let's take it one at a time.
That is an amazing question. I'm so happy that you asked that question. So I don't know is the honest answer, but there is a lot of interesting stuff around Oppenheimer. So there's a book by a guy named William Steinman called UFO Crash that claims that Robert Oppenheimer was on a cleanup crew, a UFO crash cleanup crew in Aztec, New Mexico, March of 1948, a year after Roswell, with Townsend Brown, among a few others. And so again, I don't know whether that's true. I'm working my way through the book right now. I think it's worthy of either corroboration or falsification. There's another book called The Fall of Robert J. Oppenheimer, UFO Secrecy.
Is that not crazy, y'all? Robert Oppenheimer being on a crash, retrieval mission. That's insane if that's true, right? Absolutely insane. And how they used, right, the nuclear research to sort of, and the new classification that they came up with for that to sort of, that became the blueprint for them hiding UFOs, right? It's just absolute national security, right? And they hid that, right? So it is possible for them to hide this from us this whole time. Clearly, there's people wanting to come out because it can't stay hidden forever. So I don't know. I find that absolutely fascinating. Definitely going to be reading that book and finding out more about that.
And The Fall of Robert J. Oppenheimer. It's by an Air Force guy, a guy named Donald Burleson. And he makes the very interesting claim that maybe the stripping of the Q clearance in Oppenheimer's case had more to do with his UFO knowledge than actually, his schmoozing with, Soviet spies in the 30s or whatever.
Christopher Nolan is wrong. Yeah, it's disinformation from Nolan.
Maybe. I have a very prompt.
John, real quick, let me clarify. No, John S. here. No, I get it. You weren't talking about me. I get it. Yeah, totally get it. Thank you. I agree. It's bullshit. Tell us what's going on. Again, that's the rabbit hole a lot of these podcasters go down. They want access to these high-profile names in the UFO community, so they've got to follow a certain narrative and say a certain thing, right? They all want to be in on the club. I don't care about that club. I got friends. I don't need friends. I need more friends, okay? I want to know the truth, because if this is real, why would I sacrifice having friends and being in a club and that for that, And then you can't criticize these people once they become your friends, right? So I'm not interested in having these people be my friends. I don't need that. I'm not also interested in them becoming my enemies. I'm just neutral, right? I just want to know the truth of what's going on. And when you start to get into tell me the secrets and this and that, again, you feel special. Now you're holding on to stuff. I'm just not interested in that.
Journalist friend who I won't out in saying this, but he has a funny quote. He's like, you don't spend $130 million to tell the truth or something like that. He's very skeptical. And look, I don't know. I think Nolan's amazing. And I think the movie was incredible. But there are a lot of weird things around that case that, again, let's demarcate this, Curt, as speculation. I'm not saying that Oppenheimer definitely was part of the research.
Yes.
But Gordon Gray, who was rumored to be part of the Majestic 12, was overseeing that kangaroo court that stripped him of his Q clearance. And so the Majestic 12, again, is this sort of this group of top brass in the military, high up scientists and strategists under Truman and then later under Eisenhower that basically would advise on kind of the UFO issue. And so Gordon Gray, he does form the Psychological Strategy Board. That's a historical fact under Eisenhower, is overseeing this sort of kangaroo court with Oppenheimer where his Q clearance gets stripped. And there are a lot of weird quotes from the transcripts. Here. And one of the quotes is Oppenheimer says, a lot happened between 45 and 49. He keeps saying that. It's like a trope. And it's like, okay, what happened between 45 and 49? Well, the atom bomb was created between 41 and 45. And if anything, he got increasingly marginalized as the H-bomb was created, which was really Teller's thing. And so post-45, what are you talking about? What happened? And if you believe any of the lore, all of the UFO stuff happened between 45 and 49. So that's kind of interesting. John von Neumann has a very, I'm sure, intimately familiar with John von Neumann. Genius Hungarian physicist, created the mathematical foundations for quantum mechanics. And he's defending his friend Oppenheimer in this kangaroo court. And he says it took Robert Oppenheimer a while to get adjusted to the Buck Rogers universe that we're living in. What is he talking about? Buck Rogers was a comic strip at the time all about space travel and aliens and interplanetary colonization and time travel. And it's weird. And
I agree. There's a lot about the Oppenheimer thing that's just fascinating, right? Nuclear connection, right? Like all of that. It is fascinating. Like that, there's something there, man. That's just my gut feeling, right? There's something just connected there, and it's kind of crazy. All right, let's jump ahead, guys. This is interesting, okay? This is going to be Curt, okay, the host here of the show, who, again, fascinating. If you haven't already, go subscribe to his channel, Theories of Everything with Curt. All the interviews he has are phenomenal. They're not all UFO stuff, just science in general, AI, consciousness, like different theory, like mathematical theories, physics, there's amazing interviews. He's such a smart guy, and so is Jesse, man. These two are just so well-spoken, so well-educated, so well-versed in a lot of different topics. They're able to just have these loose, very informative conversations and very thought-provoking, and I respect that a lot. Because I'm a fucking idiot, y'all. Pardon my French. Like you know, I did not go to college, right? I've traveled a lot. I've lived in 3 different countries. I've done a lot of things for sure. I kind of got that street smarts, you know, if you will, sort of thing going. But who knows even that? I don't know. But anyway, I'm just a curious person. So anyway, let's jump to this. This is a fascinating speculation from Curt about UFOs. Listen to this.
Counters, and usually that's the case. That
I have a speculation.
I want to hear it. Let's hear your
I don't know if I'll
speculation.
include- no, it's not huge, but I was wondering, why is it that these objects follow cars sometimes, or they'll follow a plane? And we often think it's to intimidate, or it's going to take us, or it's collecting data on us.
Yeah.
But it could be, maybe that's just in the same way that if you want to run, you have to open your eyes. You need some sense data around you to orient yourself. It could be that in order for them to move, to make some sort of turn, they need to lock onto an object. And so they're just like, okay, that's the largest large object. Let me just lock onto that. Great. Now I can go away.
That's
So it has nothing to do with you. You're a side effect and you think it's following me. No, it doesn't care about you.
That's real.
Right? I never heard this before, and that is fascinating. I don't know. What do y'all think about that? That's fascinating. I was thinking about this, you know, kind of got my own theory to add on top. Like, you know, the Earth spins, it moves. Couldn't they just use any point on Earth to have that happen? You know, why would they need a car or a plane? Again, these guys are way smarter than me. But if they can travel at the speed or through dimension or time as such, wouldn't a plane, a car, the Earth move, you know, rotation be like to them the same speed? Like, would they really, the difference be anything to them? Right? Does that make sense? Like in just relative, right? On the spectrum, like it's all the same, right? It's like saying, oh, this guy lived a long time. He lived 100 years. In relation to the entire universe, it's billions of years. I mean, it's nothing, right? That's what I mean. So like if they can travel at this high speed, like a plane, a car, the Earth rotation must all seem the same speed to them. So I don't know. Anyway, I'd never heard that. That's fascinating to think about and sort of speculate, right? Which a lot of this is. Most of it is. Makes sense, doesn't make sense. They say here, that's funny. They can do whatever they want, LOL. I mean, yeah, maybe you're right. I don't know. There's no way to know. It's all speculation for the most part, right? That is the truth. There's so many different UFO stories. They perform in so many different ways. You know, some make noise, some don't make noise, some have lights, some don't have lights. Look, all the different shapes that are seen, not seen, multiple, small, big. Like, there's just pretty much everything you can think of, someone has seen it in some form or fashion. Different beings, time travel, interdimension, ultra-terrestrial. They've been here the whole time. They live underwater. They're on the moon. They're coming from Mars. I don't know, a mix of it all, right? It's who knows, man. But it is interesting to think about, and it's fascinating to talk about. Again, I don't smoke marijuana anymore, but if I did smoke weed, man, I would love to sit with these two guys with some bottles of wine or whiskey and over a campfire and looking up at the stars and just talking about this stuff. Like, it's fascinating and, so enjoyable to speculate about this and wonder, right? Because, you do wonder. I mean, since the beginning of time for man, we have looked up at the sky and wondered what's out there, what's going on, and are we alone? And that is fascinating. That's why it's so disturbing if some government on our planet or multiple governments and people within do have that answer and they don't want to share it with us. I mean, that's just the greatest robbery, of all time, right? The greatest heist of all time. So, all right, last little bit here. We're going to talk about lack of evidence. They kind of talk about a little bit here, just how that can be a little frustrating and how to stay. Yeah, just listen to them. Let's see here.
anything were to happen to that. And I don't think it's gonna. I see you just thought that you're just getting started. I think I'm very long what you're doing that, and I'm not just saying that I'm not kissing your ass. This is not obsequious. I'm very bullish on it, and I'm bullish on myself for similar reasons. And yeah, I'm excited to see where you take it. And yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I'd like your opinion on this. For me, when I watch a UFO video or I make one myself, like I interview someone on the topic, like a Ross Coulthart or whatever it may be, I'm invariably disappointed because I have looming in me large expectations of a grand revelation.
Yep.
And then it doesn't come out.
Yep.
And then, so how do you deal with that?
Probably not super well. I get fatigued. I get cynical around a lot of the same things that people who are cynical about some of my interviews get cynical about. Like, I'm not like this, like, it's hard. And I just want to know the answer. And, but then I remind myself, well, I know way more about this stuff than I did 3 or 4 years ago. And it's like more coherent. It's not like a bunch of random disparate facts. It's like things that are building on a possible real narrative. And I have all these books that I want to read in the future based on that real narrative, and just keep going. And then I also remind myself, like, if this stuff is true, so say we have, 10 to 15, however many crafts in U.S. government possession or whatever, would it be possible that it hasn't leaked and nobody's, actually, none of the material has leaked. No high res photos have leaked. Like, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's possible. And would it be possible that, most of the personnel on the program wouldn't say anything? 100%. And then maybe there are people who have come out. And so I just remind myself, like, to the people who are like, there's no evidence, there's no data, like, no, the government hasn't fully disclosed, of course. Like, therein lies what me and you are doing now, Curt. But like, there's a lot of stuff. And yeah, of course it's, I get super frustrated, but in some ways, I don't know, maybe this is a rationalization, but I think it's like it takes such mental gymnastics, like the theorizing around it, that and the fact finding, the pattern matching, that it keeps you sharp too. So I think that's interesting. And so rife with snake oil. You have to really pan for gold and suss out and distill the fact from fiction. That I think is good for it's healthy for your sort of thought process. And then, yeah, I don't know. I guess those are the main points. Well, how do you keep going? Because I'm sure, as you said, you feel disillusioned a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's disheartening because there's a dearth of new information. And so you've seen on the Toe channel that I've pulled back in the past 6 months or even a year on the content on interviewing people on this topic, because it's just, I want something new. Everyone wants something new, and then you don't get it. You still learn, and there's still something positive about asking the same question again, because you can elicit a novel response. So for instance, this happens in the math world. There's something called a compact set.
So anyway, there's more to that. It is frustrating, y'all, right? It's frustrating. I mean, there's some people who've been in this a long time. They've seen sort of the same pattern happening over and over again, and they'll, get frustrated by that. Like, I totally understand everyone's sentiments, honestly. If you're new to it, if you've been in it a long time, like, it's frustrating, like, for sure. Again, it's breadcrumbing out. Everything gets kicked down the road. Next year, 6 months, a year from now, 18 months, we're going to have disclosure, right? Like, it's always just kicked down the road. And this people say, well, we're further along than we've ever been. Yeah, that's true. But we're further along to nothing. It's like, we're further along to nothing. We still don't have anything, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, until there's just actual tangible answers and proof and evidence, like it's hard to say for certain. And yes, there are a lot of great podcasts. Someone mentioned that UFO podcast is good, interesting interviews on there. I agree. Right. There's definitely some stuff out there to watch and listen to. I personally, that's just not going to happen on this channel. Again, to get a lot of those interviews, you've got to basically, you can't ask tough questions. You just can't. You have to assume it's real, and you're going to be in an echo chamber with them. I'm just not interested in that. They want to be friends with them. You'll always hear that on these interviews. Again, nothing against these guys, but it's like, oh, my friend, Ross Coulthard, Joy, my friend. I call him a friend. Happy to call him a friend. Lou Elizondo, these guys, that guy. I'm not calling anyone. I'm just saying, I don't want to do that. Don't want to be that. Because then you won't ask the tough questions. And then you'll just be fascinated by what they tell you. Oh, wow, this guy laid out this secret. Oh, wow, on my channel. So now I'm going to get more views and subscribers and this and that. And it all gets lost. This content sells, y'all. Okay, this content pushes well. People want to hear about this stuff. I do it myself. Now, not for that reason. Is there maybe a part that, I guess, I don't know if I'm being honest, transparent, right? But it is something I'm interested in. I would not dedicate, this is my full-time job. I wouldn't do this if I wasn't interested in this, by no means. I could be doing other things. Like, there's no question. I have another podcast, Lone Star Play. Like, I do this because I'm genuinely curious about this. I want to know the truth, which is why I do these daily videos. Like, I really just want to know the truth, man. Whatever that is, I'm willing to accept whatever it is. And again, I think there's multiple truths. I don't think there's one truth. I think there's multiple truths to it all. And little nuggets, right, that all add up. It's probably just a little bit of everything. And that is also fascinating, But do I have a gut feeling that we got some craft and some, alien body somewhere? I do, man. I do. Maybe, again, not as many as everyone's saying, but I think we got something. I really do. All right. Let's see here. Coulthard is a seasoned journalist, man. He'd go toe-to-toe, no problem. I'm quite certain. Yeah, maybe he would. Absolutely. I've got nothing against the guy. I don't have anything against any of these people. They're not heroes. They're not villains. I don't see them as anything. Just neutral. Just people. That's the truth. I'm taking a different path. They're allowed to take the path they want. I've never seen Ross do a sort of let's go toe-to-toe podcast. I haven't seen that. So if someone can send me a link of that, I'd be curious to watch, because I haven't seen that stuff. A lot of times, and I get it. It's not like you want to go on a gotcha podcast or something. Like, I get that. That makes sense too, right? You want to feel comfortable. Right, but this idea that I do hear him complaining about people. They call them haters. Like people that are a little skeptical, right? Like he name calls Mick West like the Pelican guy. Like, come on, what are we doing? That's rude. That's just rude. I get you could be frustrated with this, but lashing out just doesn't seem right to me. But again, I can understand you've been in this long time and you're frustrated and you're tired of people questioning you. Okay, but you can understand why people would question you, just like you're questioning the government over and over again, right? Because they're hiding things. Then you also hide things, right? That's the irony of all this, right? You'll complain about the government hiding things. Meanwhile, there's podcasters, journalists hiding things and releasing it when they want, controlling the narrative. Like, I don't get it. It's someone coming in from the outside to this fairly new. That's disconcerting to me. That's a huge red flag. Right. But sometimes people get so excited about the information that's being said, they just salivating at it. Can't wait to get more. And it's fascinating. That's all I'm saying. Again, nothing against any of these people, wherever you stand on it. Skeptic, believer. I don't know. I'm focused on what the evidence and the truth is. Right. I don't consider them heroes or villains or friends, enemies. I just don't look at it that way. So, we should be united, not divided against it. I agree. Yes, there are UFO grifters out to make money. Gosh, guys, there's a lot of comments. I apologize. I can't read all these. I'm trying to stay with it. So, yes, thank you guys for whatever you're saying. Talk amongst each other. Yeah, look, it is what it is. That's it. And people can question me too. 100%. You should be critical. There's no question. If you watch my videos, you'll see I'm just trying to find out what's going on. I got no skin in the game as far as that goes. So anyway, okay. All right, guys. Let me see. Have I covered everything? Oh no. There's one part I do want to cover before we go because this is fascinating. This is about David Grusch and the starting of. Let me see if it's right here. Okay.
So again, I recommend anyone watch it, and the link will be in the description. Maybe some of it will be on screen right now so that you can see. The channel is
Thank
Jesse
you, Curt.
Michels,
Means a lot.
spelled without an A,
Yes.
but just like Michaels.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
the documentary,
Thank
guys.
you.
Go check
Jesse,
that
what
out.
part of the Grusch interview was cut that was interesting that is off air, but people maybe should know about it?
Yeah. The one thing I think I can talk about is we talked about Roger Penrose and his theory of orchestrated objective.
So, Jesse, real quick, Jesse Michels said in a Twitter space that he is going to do a part 2 of his documentary. I don't know when that's coming out, and Curt doesn't ask him, so I don't know. Jesse also had supposedly made a documentary about Luis Elizondo, and that was supposed to come out. That's months and months and months ago. It could be over a year, to be honest. Doesn't get asked about that, so I don't know. But that's what I'm interested in. I don't know where it is in here, but I'll just say it. Basically, Jesse Michels talks about, so David Grusch was part of the UAP task force, okay? Right? And that's why he looked into this, right? He got into this task force, the one before Arrow, okay? The one before Sean Kirkpatrick's a part of. And Senator Kristen Gillibrand, she's the one that commissioned that task force that David Grusch then works for, right? That's fascinating because check this video out that came out on Twitter. I covered this on the podcast back in August. I made a video. I don't know which video it's in, but listen to what Kristen Gillibrand says after David Grusch testifies. Mind you, Gillibrand commissioned the task force for UAP, right, that David Grusch works for, right? And then just listen to this.
I started meeting with pilots, and pilots were very upset because they kept running into these drones and other aircraft that they were really worried that they would crash into. And they kept giving the DOD the data, the videos, the information, and saying, what's going on? This is a UAP. You got to do something about it. Whose is it? What is it? And in some instances, they retaliated against the service members, the pilots, and said, you're just crazy about aliens, and, we're not going to take you seriously anymore. And it ruined their careers. Well, I was chair of the personnel subcommittee, and I said, that's not acceptable. These are men and women who are serving bravely for our country, and they're just reporting what they see. You need to look at it and analyze it and figure out whose it is. Well, we set up the office 3 years ago, and we fully funded it in the defense bill. And this is fascinating because we don't know who's making these types of aircraft. I'm sure some of it's China. I'm sure some of it's Russia, and I'm sure some of it's Iran. They are at the forefront of drone technology. We already know one weather balloon was Chinese, and they're spying. They're spying on our bases, on our nuclear sites, and overhead. So I made this office. I created it. It's up and running. I made sure the DOD, we fully funded it because they didn't even want to fund it. And we will get to the bottom of it. But did anybody watch the hearings last week? We had some strange testimony. We had some pilots say, we saw this craft. It's a Tic Tac. Here's the video. It had strange flying patterns. We don't understand what it was. Those pilots should not be discriminated against. That information's there. And then the second guy, I think, was in Navy intelligence, and he said, well, I was in charge of looking at all the existing UAP programs, and I talked to everybody I could and found out what I could. And I talked to a bunch of people who said, not only do we have a program, but it's super secret, and we have dead aliens, and we have crashed aircraft. What?
I mean, so disrespectful. You just said we shouldn't be dismissing the military service officers, and then you say this, right? Does that not, even in the same breath she says this, ma'am, Senator Gillibrand, you literally started that task force that you asked this guy to look into, right? And then she also helped with Arrow, right? So, again, how are you they're just laughing about this, right? Like openly. Like, I find this so disrespectful because she, at the beginning, said we shouldn't be laughing about them and dismissing them. And then she literally goes on to laugh and dismiss about them. You know, I don't care where you stand politically, left, right. I don't like labels, so I don't say I'm left, right, or, you know, I don't like any label, you know, like that. So I think it's all BS politically, but whatever. To each their own. I just find this absolutely disrespectful. I mean, how can you say both things? You're the one that started that program that you asked him to investigate this stuff. He comes back with his findings, and now you're laughing at him? You're laughing about him? This guy put his life on the line to go testify. His family, himself, his career, right? He had to leave his career to come out for this. Because why? Because you're laughing at him like this. Like, again, whether you believe it or not, that's disrespectful. Now, I'm from Texas, y'all. Yeah, I say y'all. Okay, get used to it. Like, I just don't get it. That is so disrespectful, and that is the UFO topic in a nutshell, right? What? UAP, dead bodies? Meanwhile, she probably believes in Jesus, in the Bible. Again, I have nothing against religion or people who believe in a higher power. Yeah, it's totally a possibility. I'm agnostic myself. I don't know. But the laugh, right, and the smirk on these two guys in the back, you know, calm yourself down. I just find that so disrespectful, man. You, again, in the same breath, you're like, don't disrespect them, and then you disrespect them. Anyway, that bothers me so much, y'all. Another quick little detail: Jesse Michels works for a venture capital company, and he talks about this in the interview in the middle, basically. Again, it's a 3.5-hour interview. You guys should watch the whole thing. The link's down in the description. Go watch it. It's fascinating. But he talks about Peter Thiel. I don't know if you've heard of him or not. Well, like literally the day after this interview came out, this bombshell report came out about Peter Thiel. Bombshell report claims Peter Thiel moonlighted as FBI informant. What? I wished that Curt could have asked Jesse about that, because Jesse knows Peter very well, and that is fascinating. Like, I don't know. That's just fascinating. Just a side note, I'm not saying anything, whatever. Just, that's interesting. That's interesting. Does Jesse have a connection? Again, I love these guys, but again, no friend, no enemy. It's not how I look at these guys. I find them fascinating, but, you know, at the end of the day, you never know. You know, did Jesse know about that? Did other people know? I don't know. Just very interesting, y'all. So, So anyway, real quick, last thing I'm going to say here about Curt on the theories of everything. At the very end of this show here, I'm going to go over some of these comments, by the way, at the end here. Let me just say this one last thing, and I'll end on y'all's comments and stuff. At the very end of this interview, Curt talks about some financial issues and struggles he's having with his podcast, Theories of Everything, stuff I can completely relate to be honest with you, sponsorship deals and stuff falling through. And to be honest, I think he got a lot of views. If you look at his views of his videos, the UFO content gets the most. I mean, by far, you know. And I think the other stuff he started to cover was getting like, I mean, I'm talking, you know, such a small percentage of that. You'd have a 2 million view video about UFOs and then 15,000 on his next interview because it was just about consciousness or AI. And for a channel to be that lopsided, right, is hard. And I think he was, he didn't want to just become a UFO channel. I'm speculating. I don't know this. And so, you start to struggle financially because your ad revenue is not coming in the same. And that guy cannot go away. Okay. Theories of Everything with Curt, like that show needs to stay around. The conversations they have are absolutely crucial to this and just life in general. Like they're fascinating conversations. So please, if you can, don't worry about me. We're fine. But if you can, I don't do this for the money. Go to Theories of Everything, subscribe, hit the like button, share their videos. That will help them a lot. If you can, join their Patreon. I actually put a link down in the description to their Patreon, not mine. Okay? I don't have a Patreon. But go down if you can, support them, donate, whatever, everyone works really hard for their money. I totally get that. So, but he cannot go away, y'all. And if you want to find out more about it, just watch the very end of his interview and you'll find out more. So I just wanted to end on that note for him. People should go support him and what he's doing because we need more people like that. He cannot fall into the abyss, y'all. Okay, he's critical to this journey. I believe that. I do. But again, you do you. That's your choice. You do what you want to do. So, all right, let me talk a little bit about some of these comments here. Politicians always try to give themselves wiggle room. Yeah, for sure. I like Curt's videos. Absolutely, guys. Curt is the way to go. George saying, Key. George, what's up, baby? Great insight. Do you believe that Toe is following the UAP topic because of financial as a primary motivator? No, definitely not saying that. I think he did cover it, and it did bring in a lot of views, right? And I think he started to notice that the other interviews were not, right? And you try to find that balance. Curt, in my opinion, doesn't have any real, that guy just seems so nice and genuine. I really believe that. But I guarantee, I'm just speculating, but I've been in podcasting for years now. I could just speculating. I bet that's the reason, right? It's hard to if your videos just aren't getting the same. But no, I think he's curious and inquisitive. I think he wishes his other interviews, people were just as inquisitive about that. That's what I believe. But he just wishes, man, you're interested in this. Why aren't you interested in this? It's connected, But it just goes to show, you get that Luis Elizondo interview and everyone wants to come watch it, man. All of his conversations are fascinating. The guy asks amazing questions. He's really smart. He lets the guests talk, right? They're really good. But yeah, I guarantee you that has affected him 100%. There's no question in my mind. And I bet he's trying to find a way to make that work without just covering UFOs all the way. So, but no, do I feel there's some nefarious reason and he just does it for financial? No, not at all. Not at all. But at the end of the day, I don't know, right? But I don't believe that. No, I don't. Anyway, guys, please go check out my interview with George. And again, I put it down in the description. I talked about it earlier in the live chat. There's links down there to it. George had me on his new show that he's launching, and we had great conversation and great guy with him and his friend Allie, and it was phenomenal. So again, I put links to both of that if you guys want to check it out. He needs our support too, y'all. He's doing great things, George and Allie. So Allie is the person I'm doing the CE5 contact with tonight. So again, I'll be reporting back on that, how that goes. And again, I'm going to be doing it a few times. See what's up, y'all. So, Curt goes really deep with the questions. He's one of the best, incredibly honest too. Yeah. GS. I agree, completely. Yeah. Curt's interest is sincere. I agree. I've watched him for a long time too, for years. Me as well. I like yours, refreshing impartiality. Partiality, sorry. Guys, the letters are so small over here. Yes, thank you, guys. I try to stay impartial and I'm just focused on the truth. I'm not trying to be friends with all these people and get into the club. And, if you look at my other channel, Lone Star Play, if you want to find out more about me, okay, guys, I've interviewed all kinds of famous people. All kinds of, and who cares if somebody's famous or not? That's not how I treat people. I don't care how many followers you got. I don't care how many subscribers you got. I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't care how famous you are. I don't care. Are you nice? Are you respectful? That's all I care about, right? That's it. Everyone's the same to me. I treat everyone the same, right? We're all in this together, y'all. So, again, I have good friends. I don't use that word lightly. Friend, friends to me are my family as well, and I'm good to go, You know, if I meet somebody, great, and whatever, that's cool. But I'm just, with this, I've got to take a step back because I've just seen too many people that I've been watching for years, right? They do make great content. But again, I'm not trying to be friends with all these people so I can get the interview. Now, if you look at our channel, you see I've interviewed Dick Pope, Avi Loeb, Mick West. I'm not friends with those guys. I'm not friends with them. You know, if somebody's willing to come on the channel and do an interview with me, great. But just know I'm going to ask questions. And I'm not going to send you the list of questions ahead of time so you can prepare. I don't do that either. Like, just be prepared. I'm going to ask whatever I feel to ask. Now, you can say you don't want to answer the question. That's fine. Of course. But, you know, again, I'm not trying to be friends or enemies. Again, just repeat that. So anyway, guys, you guys are awesome. I really appreciate everyone tuning in and watching. Amazing. Again, I apologize, pardon me, for the initial video that I put up that didn't go, you know, just whatever. Again, it was a bad video. Whatever, the audio and the video is just effed up halfway through, and it's just something I didn't catch, and I should have caught that, y'all. That's on my bad. I do check the videos, but I just scrubbed the beginning, like first 20 minutes, and of course, that's where, after that is where it went astray. But anyway, this was really fun to live stream with y'all and talk with y'all, and maybe I should do this more often like this, to be honest with you. Present a video that I do. Maybe I'll do it on the weekends like this on Saturday or something. So, you know, look, there's always light at the end of the tunnel, right? You got to find the positive in a situation. So I do enjoy connecting with y'all and hearing y'all's thoughts as well. Because, again, we're all in this together, y'all. I'm no more important than y'all. You know what I mean? Like, y'all are just as important to this. I just happen to have a camera and a mic and can dedicate my time to look into this more. And I realize people can't put in that time. So I try to do it for y'all, right? And help you guys swim through the BS to find out, you know, what you should be thinking about. Because there's so much that comes out in the UFO community, right? Tweets and videos and docs and books and podcasts. And who has time to listen to, you know, 3.5-hour podcasts all the time, even though I'm recommending this one. If you don't listen to anything, listen to that one. But who has time for all that? Nobody, right? Even me, I can't keep up with it all. And it's my full-time job. I dedicate so much to this, but I'm able to sift through what I think is viable and present it to y'all to what I think y'all, you know, would be interested in. You know, that's why I release a video every day, 12 p.m. Central, unless there's an issue and I got to do a live thing like this. So anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. Check the premiere, 12 p.m. And I'm always when the video premieres, I'm always in the chat to watch it with you guys. Okay? I like to be there to just chat with you guys and hang out. And I find that fascinating, and watch the premiere of the video when it comes out. That's important for me. So again, thank you guys so much for supporting and watching this channel. If you like, hit that like button. If you don't, it's all good. It's your power of you, right? Comment down below in the actual comments, not the chat too, different things you think about it. I read all of that stuff, y'all. I do. I read all, and I'll respond when I can. And if you want, it's up to you. Hit that subscribe button. You know, again, your power, your decision. I get it. It's free. You can always unsubscribe if you don't like it, right? So anyway, thank you guys again. You guys are awesome. And we'll, you know, check all the links down in the description. And we'll see you guys next time, tomorrow, 12 p.m. Central, noon, on the next video, okay? Just remember, guys, every day is a gift. Every day is a gift. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace, y'all.